DNVR. 2 goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. 3 for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 we're still waiting for. Well, bring on the chase. Out on the field, a mile high, Broncos win is our desire. Couple with a breakfast crew and a friendly orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us at the DNVR. We are DNVR.
Happy Sunday and welcome into DNVR Broncos Live, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Unfortunately, no tailgate today. Henry got too drunk last week. His mom called me and requested that we put off the tailgate for a week so he has some time to regain his pride. And I felt like that was a fair request, so I honored it. How's everyone doing today?
Doing better than Henry, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to down a bunch of tequila shots, if I'm being honest. Like, it's a lot of fun to have the tailgate, but those have been some long Sundays.
Yeah, they have been some long Sundays. The good news, though, the last time we did a remote show on a Sunday morning, the Broncos won. So that's what we're hanging on to today. Of course, I'm joined by Andre Simone, Henry Chisholm, my guy, Zach Stevens. Boys, a huge game for the Broncos today, and a huge opportunity, not just for the team, but for Drew Lock. We're going to talk about all of this, but I do want to start with Drew Lock. This game is so big for the narrative surrounding him, and we've talked about that repeatedly throughout the week. But in my opinion, and I'm curious to see what you guys think of this, it's kind of all setting up really nicely for him. You have a game here at home in perfect weather, and now we obviously already knew Derwin James and Chris Harris Jr. wouldn't be on the field for the Chargers, but now you take Desmond King off the field as well, and who knows how this thing could shake out. But I think from a Broncos standpoint, especially since they dodged the bullet with the offensive line and only losing Graham Glasgow up there, I think this is setting up really nicely for Drew to have a good game.
Well, and on top of that, you have everyone watching Justin Herbert. People from around the nation will be tuning in to see if Justin Herbert continues his streak. And if Drew Lock outduels him or beats him, then people are going to have to look at him and say, okay, I see what Drew's doing now. Still has that winning record now, just beat Justin Herbert. This guy does have something. So it does set up nicely for him.
Yeah, I mean,
Andre?
It's key. It's part of why I think Drew's last few performances have been perceived as maybe more disappointing than they are in actuality, going 1-1 against Patriots and Chiefs, is that all while those games are going on and the offensive struggles are going on for the Broncos, a lot of us have a second screen where Red Zone is playing, and it would appear that instead of Red Zone, you're just watching a Justin Herbert highlight film of vertical bomb after another, as they've kind of been able to feast on lesser defenses. And yet Justin Herbert has only won his first career game this past week against the lowly Jaguars. So it's been weird how this perception's been a little different from the actual results, and certainly the win-loss column.
Dre, I want to give you the floor here for a second just to talk about what you've seen from Drew Lock so far and what you need to see from him moving forward. Obviously, you kind of take a different look at the game than the rest of us here.
Yeah, it comes down to one thing I've said about Lock since scouting him, like back in 2017, his best season at Mizzou, was that his gift and his curse is his ability to make off-platform throws. And as far as on-field performance, that's really starting to bear out as a Broncos quarterback in how well he's converting third and longs, which is something that any other quarterback in the post-Peyton Manning era has really struggled in. And it's why the Broncos have often been kind of dead in the water. It's just been 3-and-out after 3-and-out without Drew Lock. But then we're also seeing some massive inaccuracies on third and short and third and medium. And that's because while Drew can make those really tough throws off those awkward platforms, almost those like fadeaway jumpers, where his weight's all backloaded, but he's still nailing outstanding throws. He's also not consistent on the gimmies, and that's making it harder for him and the offense to kind of move the chains and get in a rhythm. So, he needs to be able to use that trump card of his when he needs it. But when he doesn't need it, he needs to be more mechanically sound and more accurate than he's been.
I think that's great. Zach, you have certainly cooled a little bit on Drew Lock in the last few weeks. What's the most concerning thing for you?
The progressions, being able to read the entire field and go through the progressions. And that's something that's clear from everyone. Drew Lock has admitted it. Pat Shurmur has pointed to it. And Vic Fangio has pointed to it. Now, when we talked to Drew over the week, he said, I need to get to my third and fourth progressions. Well, that's understandable for a young guy. The NFL is a fast new game for him. He needs to work through that. But then when we talked to Vic and Pat, one of the things they said was, he needs to get to his second read. And now they didn't harp on that, but that was just something they threw in. And to me, that's very concerning. If he's hitting one read and then taking off and trying to make a play, that concerns me that the process may not be there as much as I thought. So today, I need to see him get to a second and a third read. And one thing I suggested this week, make Albert Okwuegbunam his third read, the guy he loves to throw to, the safety blanket for him, so that he has to hit 1, 2, okay, then dump it off to Alberto for something easy. And that is the process that I thought Drew had. And that's just why I'm concerned now. It's not really the numbers that concern me. It's that being able to read the field, because guys, you can't be a successful quarterback having one read and that's it.
Hank, where are you on Drew?
It's been disappointing. I think you have to say it's been disappointing. I think that a lot of us probably had a little bit too high of expectations, because realistically, how many games has he played? He's played 10 games, and that's obviously not a full season. You factor in that he's had to change offensive coordinators at the halfway point there. And I do think that it's important to remember that people develop at their own speed. Just because Justin Herbert can jump out there and be ready to go immediately doesn't mean that everybody goes through the process the way that he did. And there have been plenty of quarterbacks who've had slow starts, and it's taken them some time to get to what they became. Drew honestly didn't even have that slow of a start. He came out firing and then has this little bit of a tough stretch that he's going through after going through injuries with a new offense. There are a whole bunch of reasons for him to have struggled now that he's going through this second offense. And as disappointing as it has been that he hasn't just kept firing on all cylinders and led the Broncos down the field every single time he's gotten the ball, I'm not concerned about him long-term yet, but he definitely hasn't proven that he is the guy yet.
Yeah, for me, the NFL is all about punches and counter punches. And it's about, can you throw the next one, or are you knocked down? Because Drew threw the first punch. Especially you go back and look at that Texans game, like that was a punch from Drew. Now teams are counter-punching back. And what will decide whether Drew Lock sinks or swims in the NFL is going to be what he has to respond to that. I personally think that he will have a counterpunch. I think most of you guys agree. So this is, this was to be expected. There's always going to be bumps in the road. It is very rare where you see a guy just go on and have just success straight through. Like Patrick Mahomes, of course, is an example. And Justin Herbert is off to a great start. What will be interesting about Justin Herbert is when and if teams counterpunch him, what does he have to respond? Now, I think everyone is probably leaning towards he will have that counterpunch as well. But I think you're right, Henry, in the sense that, it's development is so non-linear, and it's also not predictable on a grand scale. Like, you can't just look at one guy and say, why isn't this guy developing like him? In the same way that you couldn't look at a student in a first grade class and say, why aren't they learning it as fast as that student over there? It's, it's as simple as that. So I do think that this game sets up really well for Drew. And this one, there's not that many excuses available for him out there. It's not against the playoff team from last year or an AFC championship team from last year. It's not in the snow. Yes, he doesn't have Cortland Sutton, but we're kind of past that now. Like it's time to move on to life without Cortland Sutton.
That's right.
It's nice weather. It's against a depleted secondary. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is against a difficult pass rush. But again, that's life in the NFL. So I think this game is important for Drew to have to begin his his counterpunch, to show that he can, give defenses different looks now that they kind of feel like they have him figured out. Really important. So let's move into kind of just what you think the plan should be for the Broncos today. Zach, I'll start with you. If you're drawing up the offensive and defensive plans today, what are you looking at?
On offense, the Broncos have to get Drew Lock in a rhythm. He can't be a 55% passer, completion percent passer today. He has to be able to hit the easy ones. And like Dre was saying, he's having trouble hitting the easy ones. That has to be the first priority. The deep balls will be there with Drew. We know he can throw those. We know he's confident to throw those. So that doesn't need to be something that is priority number 1, 2, and 3. That's something that you have to work into the game plan, of course, to keep the defense honest, but you have to work easy routes in there, and you got to get Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant involved. Those guys have to be involved early on. You can't have another game where Albert O is by far the leading receiver. Since Albert O's been in the Broncos the past 2 games, he's been their leading. He's had the most targets on the team. That can't happen again. And just because you have 2 first-round picks there with Noah Fant and Jerry Jeudy, you got to use them again.
Jay?
Yeah, it really, to me, it's going to start with the ability of Drew to kind of handle the pressure from the Chargers and in some ways do his best Justin Herbert impersonation, where Herbert, teams haven't done a good job of containing him in the pocket, and he's done a phenomenal job of, free rusher comes, I can just outrun him, buy myself extra space, and now I'm operating in the perimeter, and it's easy breezy. I would love to see a little more of that from Drew, you can just see him. He's working so hard to be that polished NFL quarterback everyone wants him to be, which is great. But you also got to kind of just let it rip, be the more, he was so good in feeling out pressure and operating off of that. And I mean, piggybacking off what Zach was saying, Fant and Jeudy, 2 weapons that you can flex out in the slot, that would seem like a very favorable matchup against a team that, as you mentioned to start the show, Ryan, no Derwin James, no Chris Harris Jr., no even Desmond King. Those are, primarily the defenders you want operating in the nickel for the Chargers. You just listed off their top 3 options, and their top 3 options is who you'd want on Fant. Chris Harris is who you'd want on Jeudy. So now you don't have that. And then, it's kind of a sidebar, but without Desmond King, maybe this Broncos special team, which has been atrocious, can actually manage to not be an absolute minus for this team. Because, that's been a big problem. We're just wasting away quality performances from the defense and even passable performances from the offense because the special teams unit is not holding their end of the bargain.
Yeah, I kind of, going back to something Zach said, I kind of disagree with the idea that, you have to look away from Albert Okwuegbunam. I keep breaking my own rule there. But I just, last week, 7 targets, 7 catches. Like, if there was a big gap between the targets and the catches, I might have more of an issue with it. But the week 1, they weren't totally connecting. The last week, they were. So I'm okay with Drew going to Albert Okwuegbunam as long as it's successful. I do think you're right, though. I mean, Jerry Jeudy can't have 2 catches. Noah Fant needs to get more involved. But I don't like the idea of telling Drew to look away from 85 just because I think that it's a successful combination. And actually, my bold prediction of the day, which is my first one of the season that I'm just feeling out here, is that Albert Okwuegbunam gets his first touchdown in a Broncos win. So, I'm burying my prediction a little bit there, but I think that they're fine to go back to that as much as they want. For me, though, the game plan has to be around running the ball, and not you need to pound the rock ridiculously, but get into 2 tight end sets and run the ball with Philip Lindsay, and get Jeremy Cox out there playing some fullback, whatever it is. Run the ball and set up play action. Have 2 tight ends out there. And, get I know it's not what they want to do, but this is what Drew's been good at. So double down, triple down, quadruple down on what he's doing well. And to me, that also includes throwing the ball to Albert Okwuegbunam.
One other thing that I'll add to my game plan is Pat Shurmur needs to get Drew Lock on the move as a play design. He needs to get him moving from the start of a play. That's what Drew wants to do. He wants to take off. He's comfortable throwing the ball when he's running. So that's what he needs to do. Don't wait for Joey Bosa to be in his face to have then Drew take off. And then he's going to be looking deep when he's on the move by himself. Start him on the move, play after play after play, which we really haven't seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
From a defensive standpoint, Henry, I'll start with you. How are you going to slow down Justin Herbert, something that no one has done yet?
Don't blow this, Henry.
That's a tough question. I feel like when you have a mobile quarterback, somebody who can get outside of the pocket, there are a couple things you can do. You can either spy him or you can send pressure. And I think that given what the Broncos have lost in terms of generating pressure, you might as well just say, you know what? I don't think we can do it by sending 4. So let's send 5-6 guys, see if we can harass him and hold up for just a couple seconds behind him. I think that because we haven't seen too much of Justin Herbert yet, it is kind of tough to come up with like a really solid game plan that you feel totally confident in. But that's where I'd start at the very least, is try to bury him, see if you can get this defense feeling like it has some momentum by just beating him up, and then play it by ear from there.
Dre?
Yeah, to me, it's something that you and I kind of seem to go back to a lot as a reoccurring theme for us, Ryan, is the old game plan for Russell Wilson, which is contain Herbert in the pocket and force him to operate within. When you're facing a quarterback like Tom Brady, you're trying to rush him from the inside out. Inside pressure forces him out, and then he's falling right into the arms of your edge rushers. It's a different strategy with Herbert and more mobile quarterbacks. You're trying to come off the edge, but contain him inside. Don't let him get out. That's where Herbert's been really good, is feeling that free rusher and outrunning him and actually buying more space that way. You can't give that to him. You need to contain him inside and then force him to operate there. If you remember, Hank, that's where he did struggle at Oregon sometimes with pressure within the pocket, especially on key downs. And then I think the Broncos are going to benefit from the fact that they've had to really rely on zone coverages. And this is going to be big for Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons isn't Derwin James. He's not Minka Fitzpatrick. He's not Jamal Adams. He's not that matchup eraser, but he's one of the smartest last lines of defense in the NFL. And this year, the Broncos defense, to their credit, have been much better than the last couple years in limiting big plays. And we got to keep that up against the Chargers. Herbert's been feasting on big plays, and everything's coming off of that. You take that away. You take away the deep bombs. You make sure Simmons is always there, not allowing any, over-the-top throws. And now you're really going to see if Herbert can kind of play at a more advanced X's and O's type of level.
Yeah, there's a rush from that game against the Seahawks, which is like one of the best game plans I've ever seen against Russell Wilson, where Derek Wolfe, instead of inside rushing, he outside rushes, so he sets the edge. Mm-hmm. And they create a pocket, which makes Russell Wilson want to step up. And Von Miller just masterfully doesn't stunt instantly. He kind of waits, and as soon as Russell Wilson takes one step forward in the pocket, he stunts in there, hits that gap, and sacks him. And it's just like, it's defensive porn, in my opinion. And like, those are the type of things that you have to do against a quarterback like this. Get out wide. Get out super wide. You can do it with your outside rushers. You can do it with your defensive ends. Get them, set them super wide so he can't bail out. There's a, Dre, the thing that you're talking about, there's a highlight that you've probably seen a million times of Herbert now against the Saints, where there's a rusher and they come in too tight. He bails out around them, gets on the edge, throws a dart. He's really good at that. So that's the type of defensive game plan I want to employ, and you can get creative with it. It doesn't have to just be your edge rusher setting the edge every single time. Mix it up, run some stunts, try and get him to move forward, and then go get him. And it says a lot about Justin Herbert that we're talking about already employing a game plan that was used against Russell Wilson. But don't be stubborn. I feel like a lot of times when coaches see rookie quarterback on the other end, they want to go to their rookie quarterback game plan. And I don't think that's necessarily the way you want to attack this.
You got to bring the heat on Justin Herbert. It's what's made your defense great these past couple of weeks. You did it against the Jets and Sam Darnold, and it worked. You did it against the Patriots, and it worked. That's when the Vic Fangio defense has looked the best, really, in the past year and a half, is those two games. And then you did it against Patrick Mahomes, something Mace was so adamant about not doing. And you know what? When they did it, they looked pretty good. They got to Patrick Mahomes. They got to him. And that's the one quarterback that you shouldn't blitz. And Vic did it. I thought it was good because it played to the Broncos' strengths and what they were doing. And Justin Herbert is, a light version of Patrick Mahomes right now. He's really good when pressure is brought. He has over 100 passer rating when defenses bring pressure on him. But you know what? That's your gun. So do it. Bring pressure on him. If you can contain him, that's great. But I don't want it to be just focused on contain. I want pressure to be put there as well. So bring Alexander Johnson, bring Josie Jewell. And you know what? You have a healthy secondary for the first time in a while. Rely on those guys. You have the highest paid safety duo in the league. You have the highest paid secondary. Rely on those guys. You may get beat when doing this, but you may also create a turnover or two or a pick six.
What do you think is like the number here in terms of big plays? Like, can you get away with 1, 2? Where do you set that, Zach?
With the way the Broncos offense is, I'm saying you can get away with 1, and that's it. I want to believe that with Drew Lock you can get away with 2 because I believe he has that, but I just haven't seen it since week 16 of last year. So right now I'm only comfortable saying 1.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a huge testament to Justin Herbert that we have to have this conversation. Normally you just say, it's a rookie quarterback, send a bunch of pressure and confuse him with coverages. And I do think confusing him with coverages is going to be an important part of this too. Make him see something that, he doesn't think he's looking at. We know that he loves those single coverage matchups on the outside. He trusts his arm. He trusts his receivers. So make him think he's looking at a single high safety and then roll someone back there to that side of the field. Like, there's a lot of things you can do here. But I think the most important question right now, Zach, is what is going on with that plant behind you? A lot of people have asked.
I know. I've been trying this past week to save it. My cats have really taken to it, and they've just started chomping away. I mean, you can't even see how many leaves are missing because they've just pretty much destroyed it all. We put it in the window every day, and there hasn't been much light this past week, so I think it's just on the way out right now.
Oh my God! Well,
you can
Zach,
see where the cats were taking bites out of it.
Oh yeah, you can.
It's like the state of football in Colorado in a plant. Right there.
That's really sad. I didn't know that cats ate plants.
Yeah, I didn't either. They sit right here, right on the Peyton Manning football, and just nibble away.
Jeez, who's the baseball bat?
It's a commemorative bat when they had the All-Star game here in the 90s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do the cats then puke up the bits of plant that they've chewed? Because that's the bonus when my cats eat.
Fortunately not. No, they enjoy the plant.
Good.
Henry, what's the signed football behind you?
Jake Plummer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The better quarterback of the two.
Yeah.
Settle down.
All right. Well, Zach has to go tend to his plant, so we're going to let him go. But we appreciate you for joining us today, Zach.
All right. Wish me luck, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Later.
Thanks, Z.
See you, fellas.
All right. Good stuff there. Of course, want to give a shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, the presenting sponsor of this pregame show that we're doing today. Head over to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that code DNVR when you sign up. You can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 every week. There's awesome promotions. I'm sure there'll be another big one coming next week. In fact, there was one this week. Bet on either Penn State or Ohio State. Put down $1, win $100. Andre and I and Henry all told you just put it on OSU. And I originally was recommending the hedge. Then I said, you know what? No, just put it on OSU. And of course, they took care of business last night. So people who got in on that offer ended up with $100 with only putting down one. All sorts of amazing offers like that over at DraftKings Sportsbook. So head over there, and get in on that. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough and restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right, guys, speaking of bets, let's get into some of our favorites here today. If anyone who's watching wants to ask us a couple questions about what they want to bet on, then of course feel free to drop something in the comments there. I'll start here, boys, with my pick of the week. This is a lock, I think. In fact, I gave Andre a lock the other day.
Yep.
And it hit in spades last night. It was, of course, Ohio State -2.5 in the first quarter last night. It crushed. They ended up winning the first quarter, I believe, 14-3. So we will take that dub all day long. And I'm going back to the first quarter because I think I'm undefeated in first quarters. We're going Kansas City Chiefs -3.5 in the first quarter against the New York Jets.
That's beautiful. That's a really nice lock you have there. I like that a lot. I guess my lock, and this has moved a little, which makes me squeamish, but I still believe in it, is the Buffalo Bills to take care of business -4 against the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots are just bad this year, especially without Stephon Gilmore and everyone else. And I almost wonder if they don't care at this point, if Bill Belichick's kind of cool with punting on this weird 2020 season. And yeah, so I think the Bills are just a far superior team. I understand why this line isn't higher, but this is just one where I got to take the points and run. Or lay the points and run, rather.
I like it.
What do you got, Hank?
I'll throw Steelers +4 against the Ravens out there. I like the Steelers. I think that defense has a good chance of shutting down the Ravens. Still kind of scares me in terms of who's going to win the game and how exactly the game will go. But I think that this really should be a pick 'em in my mind. And so taking those points seems like really good value.
Yeah, that's one of a couple spicy dogs today.
Mm-hmm.
There is a 20% profit boost out there for one parlay this week. They're making you think long and hard on it. Have you guys placed your 20% profit boost parlay?
Not yet, but I have another parlay. This I round robined that I could give out to the people. I am bullish on the Cowboys offense being absolute trash with Ben DiNucci. I mean, they were absolute trash with Andy Dalton, arguably the best backup in the NFL. Though maybe that argument, there's been a wrench in that plan thrown, but Ben DiNucci is absolute trash. They're in complete turmoil with this coaching staff, and that defense coached by Jim Schwartz, the Eagles defense, the weaknesses in the secondary. Ben DiNucci isn't talented enough to test them. I love under 15.5, the team total Cowboys. You could parlay that with the Broncos +3, who I think are one of those spicy dogs I was talking about. My other lock, I think the Rams -3 against the Dolphins with Tua's debut are pretty safe. And then I really like the Packers -5.5. Parlay those together. That's a nice little, oh, well, I don't have the odds here handy, but it's in the +2,000s. That's good stuff. Right?
+2,000. I really think that we should have a new segment called Andre's Spicy Dogs.
we could eat spicy hot dogs. Yeah, why not?
Some hot links and some hot picks. So I have made mine, and I'm a big fan of this one.
Yeah, lay it on us.
Two dogs that I don't think should be dogs, spicy dogs, if you will. Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. They're coming in at +175.
We're talking money lines.
Yes, money lines. And then Broncos +150. You put those together, you add together the profit boost there, and you're up to +705.
Wow, a two-legger.
Yep.
That's old school stuff right there. I love that. That's really nice value. That sounds like a parlay someone might actually be able to win.
That's how I feel about it. And
that's outstanding.
I like it so much, I'm breaking my own rule of going outside of time windows for a parlay. This goes across the whole day, which everyone knows I hate.
Yeah, we should mention we've been basically perfect on 11 o'clock picks, and 2 p.m.ers have been a real struggle on the other end.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the 2 o'clock slate. Dre, we've talked about windy unders.
Yes.
And there is some wind out there today, but it kind of looks to me like the book has already shifted on them. All of these are low numbers out there. But if you're interested, just listen to this. Minnesota, Green Bay, sustained winds of 20 to 26 miles per hour and gusts of 40. Las Vegas and Cleveland, winds between 21 and 26 miles per hour, gusts of 40 and rain. New England and Buffalo, 21 to 25 mile per hour, gusts over 40 and rain.
Wow.
And then New Orleans and Chicago, winds of 15 to 20, gusts of 35. And Tennessee and Cincinnati, winds of 15 to 20 and gusts of 35. So,
which was the last one you said?
Tennessee and Cincinnati.
Oh, Tennessee and Cincinnati's. And I mean, all of those have seen a significant drop on the totals, on average 2 to 4 points right there.
Yeah.
And I mean, some significant drops, like Buffalo and New England 41. That's among the lowest totals we've seen all year. But you got to respect the weather. It's going to be harder to pass the ball.
So one thing I was thinking about was hitting those first 3 that I said: Minnesota, Green Bay, Las Vegas and Cleveland, New England and Buffalo, putting those 3 together and then teasing them to get them back even above where they started.
Because you're intrigued by the overs, weather be damned?
No, I'm intrigued by the under. Teasing up the number and taking the under.
It's not a bad strategy.
Yeah.
It's not a bad strategy at all.
Henry, anything jumping out to you this morning?
Knowing that Vikings-Packers game is going to be windy, I do like the under there. 2 teams that are relying on the passing game. I think Packers still without Aaron Jones. Does seem like that would be a good one. Also, Tennessee, Cincinnati. I kind of like I liked the Titans -7, but knowing that it's windy, I like that even more. I feel like that just plays even more into their hands.
From that info, the thing that stands out to me most is I thought the Bears were kind of a spicy dog. The weather could significantly help them because, if it evens out the playing field and the Saints, noodle arm Drew Brees is kind of as bad as Nick Foles and that Bears offensive line, that could really even things out. And that's another intriguing dog on top of the Steelers, Broncos.
Oh no, we lost Dre.
Oh, no.
We'll get him back. I know what he was going to say was profound. So for me, I want to hear what you think about this one, Henry.
Okay.
Everyone knows that I love a first game for a young quarterback that was a high draft pick. So, of course, the one this week, you could have definitely profited off of Justin Herbert. In his first start, of course, they covered easily against the Kansas City Chiefs. But now you've got the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa making his first start. Dolphins +3.5, also +143. I'm kind of disappointed that there's not more value here because I feel like there should be. But what I will say is I do really like Tua over 230 passing yards.
You do?
Yep, I do.
It scares me. If they weren't playing the Rams, then I would be all in on putting some money on the Dolphins. Or if they were playing the Rams, and like you said, they just had better value. But with those numbers, I think the Rams are a legitimate contender in the NFC. The Dolphins, meh. Like, you would need a really special first appearance from Tua to have a shot, and I'm just staying away. I love the idea, but it's just because it's the Rams.
So what about the 230 don't you like? I understand not wanting to take the Dolphins. What don't you like about the 230?
Just that I think he might not hit it. I think that, you know what? Who do they have? They have Devontae Parker. He's going up against Jalen Ramsey probably. You have Aaron Donald staring down your 6'1" quarterback in his first start. it just scares me too much with this being his first appearance. Like, I really like Tua, but things typically don't go that well.
Trey, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in very much wait and see mode with everything about the Dolphins this week. Though I get the thinking they're probably down early, and you get 40 yards in garbage time, and that allows you to hit the over. I'm very much in wait and see mode with Tua. I love Tua. It just feels like they're really rushing him, and I know they wouldn't do that. They have no incentive to rush him, but I'm just. Yeah, I gotta see post-surgery too. I just didn't get to see it in the preseason or anything. So he's a unique case where I'm much more in wait and see mode than I would be with other rookies who feel more comfortable with.
I mean, we only saw 2 throws when he came in a couple weeks ago, but I thought both of those looked pretty good. I also, first of all, let's put a shot on this next tailgate.
Okay.
I'll take the over. You guys get the under.
There you go.
230.5 is the exact number, just so we know. I also really like Mike Gesicki over 33.5 yards for what you guys were saying. Essentially, he's going to need to get the ball out quick because of Aaron Donald, and his number one receiver is going to be taken away by Jalen Ramsey. I think he'll look to Gesicki quite a bit.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see it being a nice little Preston Williams day as well, who's really been impressive. But again, we need to see his preferences. With every quarterback, you kind of tend to find out, oh, this guy really likes so-and-so, and then you kind of go from there.
But then their line goes up. You gotta predict it.
Well, I know, but like at Bama, they didn't have the tight ends to take away the touches from those insane 4 wide receivers he had. But he really feasted on those 4 wide receivers, which, I mean, again, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess maybe you're right. Maybe it's just going to be more of a pass-heavy offense. What's receiving yards for Gaskin?
Receiving yards for Gaskin over 24.5.
See, that I like.
Yeah, I like that too.
I think, dump offs and security blanket, running for his life. Kind of game's a little too fast. A lot of throws to Gaskin. I could see that working out nicely.
Do you guys have any props that you're looking at?
I'm sticking to team props these days. That's what I'm all about. I do think I have a bet with Guy on Justin Herbert, so I might as well extend that to taking the under on passing yards for Justin Herbert, which I'm sure is super duper inflated if I look at it right now.
So I meant to start the segment with this, but Andre heard me complaining about this last night, but Hank, you haven't heard it yet. I think I had the worst bad beat of all time last night. Like, I don't know if this one can be topped. Ohio State, Penn State. Second quarter, I take Ohio State minus 6.5.
Yeah. The
second quarter, as it were, is over. And the Ohio State Buckeyes have won the second quarter 10-3. Your boy has won the bet. It hits my account. Like, it pops up as a 1 bet in my account. I've already spent the money. It's gone to commercial break. And
no, stop. Really?
Oh, yeah. It hit my account.
Wow.
It was a green dot already. Then I'm like fixing together some food, and I hear them come back from break, and they're like, so we've got an odd situation here as the referees have just brought both teams back onto the field. As the second half was ending, Ohio State kneeled the ball down on 4th down. There was 2 seconds left on the clock when they snapped it, and Justin Fields looked like he was looking at the clock. He steps back and then takes a knee.
Yeah.
But he didn't wait until the clock hit 0. So he took a knee with 1 second left on the clock on 4th down. Of course, that's a turnover on downs. Clock stops. All the teams are in the locker rooms. They bring them back out onto the field. Penn State kicks a field goal with 1 second left on the clock. I lose the bet.
A 50-yarder, too, which are far from gimmies in college, but this gifts Penn State a 50-yarder. And, wow, man. Yeah, it was terrible. That was terrible.
I've never been more upset after losing a bet. Like, I couldn't believe that actually happened. Like That's something that's in like a nightmare. It's in like a movie about bad beats. So anyway.
I just don't know how Justin Fields lets that happen.
I don't either.
Like, what is he thinking? He has to know that you have to see it hit 0 before you can kneel.
I just don't. Why even? There was no rush. It's not like he had to like take 10 steps backward and then kneel it down. Like you could do anything. The half is going to end, but he takes like 2 steps back and then kneels down. I have to say, it really knocked his draft stock for me. I'm kidding, but anyways, so I was buying some time there for you, Dre, to tell me about some of these team props that you like.
Ben DiNucci, 210.5 passing yards.
You're all over Gucci DiNucci.
I mean, come on. If I'm skeptical about Tua, you think I'm not skeptical about Ben DiNucci today? The third string quarterback on a terrible offense in this kind of odd offseason, like the dude is going to be absolutely lost. I would take the under if it was like half of this.
So you guys do the draft podcast at DNVR. Yeah. Has Ben DiNucci's name ever been uttered on that show?
Maybe in passing as I was going through like all-star game guys. I think he was a Shrine game dude, but no, not really.
Oh, wow.
He definitely wasn't one of my top 10 ranked quarterbacks.
I had never heard his name until last week.
Yeah, I knew of him vaguely because of he played James Madison in the FCS. And
Did you mean to say it vaguely?
Oh, sure. Whatever's right is what I meant to say. But he now I'm all flustered. he plays for James Madison. They're always the team that's competing with North Dakota State, and so he was around. I didn't really think of him as a quarterback for the Cowboys or somebody I put money on playing football in the NFL, but here he is.
Here's your opportunity.
I love all of your logic behind this, Andre, but as you know, I watch just about every Eagles game, and that's just not the way things work with the Eagles. Whenever you think something is going to happen, the opposite of that happens. They're going to be big favorites, which means they're not going to win big. They're going to be going up against a third-string quarterback who everyone thinks is going to suck, which means he's going to play well. And it's going to come down to Carson Wentz doing ridiculous stuff with parking attendants late in the game, and he's going to do it. And the Eagles will win by 3, and Eagles fans will be pissed, and that's what's going to go down.
All adds up to me.
That's the correct logic in every other Eagles game, but not tonight. I'm telling you, not tonight.
Did you watch them against the Giants, who are also a terrible team?
No, the Giants have a competent quarterback compared to Ben DiNucci, and they're not the worst defense in the NFL. So that's a major difference to me.
I'm glad Ryan has learned the struggles and just the knowledge of an Eagles fan, because no, this isn't going to be a blowout game. Like, this is going to be a close game, and I am going to lose my voice from screaming at the TV because I'm going to be so frustrated. My dad was like, I'm going to jump out the window if they lose this game. Like, it's going to be a mess.
Also,
I'll say 10.5 is a lot of points.
Eagles historically struggle stopping Zeke Elliott.
It's true.
Well, that'd be another intriguing prop, is Zeke Elliott rushing yards.
So, anyways, that's what it's like to be an Eagles fan.
I really hope you're right, Andre. Like, all of me, like, really wishes, but because of the knowledge of this pain, I prepare myself now.
No, I understand. I understand fully, but I do think this is the rare exception to that rule.
Fingers crossed for Allie's dad. I know. I was like, you should not be saying that out loud when the Eagles are the Eagles. He's like, I know they are, but like, Allie, if they lose this game, I'm like, stop.
Yeah, I wouldn't make the stakes that high on any Eagles game.
Exactly. And that's what I told him, and he's like, I know, but just like, they can't, Allie, they can't.
Good news for the Eagles is they'll have Jalen Reagor finally, and they will have Dallas Goedert as well, I believe.
You know,
the no-go though.
This does feel like a game where Jalen Reagor could be really valuable. Like, if there's a team where you just want a guy who's super fast, who, like, the defense will just lose him and he will be wide open, it's against the Cowboys. Like, you can just tell him to run straight over and over again, and I think at least 2 or 3 times they just don't cover him.
Speaking of that secondary struggling, I really wish and I really hope we can see more of Will Parks. Like, I was so excited to have him on the Eagles, and like he's dealing with an injury, like recovering from an injury. So I get not having him out there as much, but I want to see him make a difference in this game. And I hope that this is the game that he can do that.
Unfortunately, you can't bet on Jalen Reagor receiving yards yet. Maybe that'll change as we get closer to the game. I will say I hit this every time the Eagles play, and it almost every time cashes. Greg Ward Jr. over 37.5 yards. Carson Wentz almost has like a perfect passer rating when targeting Greg Ward Jr.
Very weird.
They just have a connection.
You don't think Reagor could lessen his value, though, as another speedy wide receiver? Like, that's kind of his role.
I don't know. It's like, when a pitcher has like a really good catcher, even if he's not the best catcher on the team, if he calls good games for him, you keep him out there. I think that's what they're going to do with Greg Ward.
You know how bad this season is when you go to an Eagles bar or you're in Philadelphia and everyone is cheering Hall of Famer when Fulgham or Ward Jr. do anything good. Like, that's how bad things have gotten in Philadelphia.
I thought
Fulgham's
Eagles fans had like notoriously high standards.
Yeah, well, right now, you're just rooting for whatever you can. And when you see Fulgham being unstoppable like he has, you're like, yes, he's our God.
What makes Eagles fans more lovable than people realize, is that they're self-deprecating. So they do have high standards, but like the Hall of Fame is like, it's like sarcastic.
Yes, it's a very big joke.
So there you go.
That's how bad it is.
That's your daily dose of Eagles talk here from the DNVR.
Fingers crossed, everyone, for my dad.
All right. Let's wrap up here with a little bit more Broncos talk as we will be signing off before, of course, the game starts in the 2:00 hour. Dre, your prediction for how this game is going to shake out, and of course the score.
Yeah, this won't be consistent with what you're seeing on Twitter. I've explained this already, and I won't go into any more explanations because that's not how jinxes work. But I think that the Broncos, I think this should be a very close game. With a home crowd, I would see the Broncos as nice favorites here. Without a home crowd, I really think it'll come down to a couple, key mistakes or big plays made by one side or the other. But I really expect this to be a neck and neck game. I do think the Broncos defense will do a good job of bending and not breaking, not giving up those big plays, which I think will be key in kind of keeping this as an even game into the third quarter. And in the third quarter, that's where I think Drew Lock will separate himself from Justin Herbert. Herbert notoriously really struggles in fourth quarters. He did that in his biggest games in college at Oregon. A lot of big games that could have been big wins and maybe even made the Ducks into playoff contenders. Never could get that breakthrough, and we've seen that consistently in the NFL so far. So I really think if the Broncos can keep this as an even game coming into the fourth quarter, that's where they should have the edge, and that's where I see this playing out. I think, obviously the turnover battle will be key, and I think I see the Broncos winning that, and that kind of proving to be the key difference here.
Hank?
Melvin Gordon can't fumble.
That's
where I'm at. This is not one of the days where you can get away with one of those. That's step one. Number two, Phil needs to stay healthy. And also you need Drew to hit on all of the easy throws. Like the things that sometimes he's missed them, but more often than not, he just hasn't even tried them. You just need easy completions to keep the offense on schedule. And I think that all three of those things are going to happen. Melvin, because I don't think he can justify fumbling again. Like he's probably cut, right? If he fumbles, I don't know. Like that's what the Patriots would do. The Broncos aren't in a position where they can do stuff like that. It's so frustrating. But I really think that Drew at least has been spending all week paying attention. I think during one of the calls, he even said like after the throws in practice, he's been continuing through his progressions even after he's thrown the ball. He's focused on it. It just has to happen, and I think it will. And defensively, like you guys were saying, just can't give up the big plays. The Chargers get so many of those where Justin Herbert dropping back on 3rd and long, and something crazy happens, and all of a sudden they have the ball on the other side of the 50, and just don't let that happen either. I'm a little bit apprehensive. This isn't a game that I want to be this stressed out about, but here we are.
Your prediction?
Oh, yeah, I forgot this was prediction. Broncos win 23-20.
Okay. Well, all three of us are picking the Broncos to win. I am more bullish than either of you. I call this a narrative flipper. Just whenever you think that you know what's happening in the NFL, the NFL comes and slaps you right in the face and says you're wrong. Everyone thinks that Justin Herbert is ready to be crowned. Everyone thinks that Drew Lock is ready to be sent down the gutter. And I think this game comes just to make everyone confused and make them realize that the NFL is pretty unpredictable in the end. The reason why I think that, it's not just a gut feeling, is because of the secondaries. Broncos secondary just got healthy for the first time. They played fantastic against the Chiefs last week, in my opinion, and they're starting to gel. Chargers secondary, on the other hand, is completely depleted, and there should be a lot of open guys out there today. Like you said, Hank, Drew needs to read the field shallow to deep instead of deep to shallow, especially considering he doesn't always get through his progressions. So if it's not there shallow, well, then look out there and see if you have a play to make the deep ball. But so many open crossers that he's missed that really will help them move the chains. And like you said, he's focusing on it, so I think he has a good chance to get it right. But really, in the end, it's just going to come down to the fact that the Chargers can't cover the Broncos' weapons. Yeah. And I think the Broncos can cover the Chargers' weapons. So in the end, you see the narrative get flipped today. Everyone's confused heading into next week.
Yeah, and really, we've talked a lot of big plays, but you guys both, I think, underlined a key point, is this game should really come down to which quarterback is better at taking what the defense gives them and not forcing those big plays, right? That's what Drew was so good as a rookie and hasn't been all that good in his sophomore season. Justin Herbert, however, hasn't really been asked to take what the defense gives him. He's kind of creating his own and taking what he creates. You got to force him into taking what you give him. And that's where I think we could see that narrative flipped. Yeah.
All right. Last thing here, because we've got an emergency question from one of our listeners. He says, start Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert? Based off everything I just said, I say start Lamar Jackson. He really gets up for big games like this.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't think this will be the Lamar we saw in the last time the Steelers and Ravens played each other. I think it'll be more high scoring, and Lamar can have a big day, especially on the ground, which can be particularly valuable in fantasy.
All right. Well, before we get out of here, another shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook. Of course, head over to DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code DNVR when you sign up. Get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when you do, and get in on all the awesome promotions over there, but especially that sign-up bonus up to $1,000 when you use the code DNVR. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25x playthrough, and restrictions to apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Last thing I'll say is if you're watching on YouTube, hit us with a thumbs up and maybe a subscribe. And if you're really feeling saucy, hit that little bell next to the subscribe. That means you'll get alerts whenever we go live. So thanks to everyone who tuned in, and enjoy your NFL Sunday. We're out.